Namaste friends, welcome you all for the biology session. In today's class, we're going to discuss about neural control and coordination. That is chapter from Human Physiology, first PO. This is Manjunath here. In today's class, we'll take what are the different types of nervous system and what is the function of these, the neural tissue, and how they help us to maintain the homeostasis by maintaining coordination. So in this first thing, what is this neural system? The neural system is actually it's a control system, right, where it helps to exhibit a character that is irritability. It controls, somewhere we studied that, consciousness. ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಗೆ ಕಾನ್ಷಿಯಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ನ್ಯೂರಲ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್. This system mainly helps to maintain the coordination along with the other system. So neural system is a system which control the body functions. Well, controlling it is in association. Generally, it is in association with endocrine system. Both neural and endocrine system help us to maintain all the different activities. All the different activities performed by an organism. You can say like this. So activities of an animal's body controlled and coordinated through these two systems. So that is very important. So activities, all those activities of an organism, or you can say that the activities of an animal mainly control, right, which will be activities of an organism, or you can say activities in the body of an organism. Anything you can say that body nalli irbodu athwa other activities outside, even to interact with external and internal environment irbodu. So activities in the body of an organism or animal controlled and coordinated. That is what the system together, controlled and coordinated. So control and coordination is mainly because of these two systems. In this nervous system, so what are the very important things we can say? That the system, they help us to, these both system help us to maintain homeostasis. We already know that what is the meaning of homeostasis. Maintaining steady state, or you can say that the constant environment. Maintaining constant environment. So constant environment, constant internal environment anta kuda helbodu. What are those? In terms of what? That is in terms of constant body temperature, internal temperature, and also osmotic concentration of the body fluid, or osmotic concentration of the body fluid. So that is what activities of the organism, or you can say that in the body controlled and coordinated with the help of neural system and endocrine system. And both these system will be considered as the body's coordinated system. So next, what is this coordination? Nervous system is a system that mainly help us to they coordinate and integrate all the activities of organs, right, in the synchronized fashion. So it controls. Along with that, what is it? It coordinates. So what is this coordination means? So coordination is a process. Coordination is a process through which two or more organisms, what is it, the organs, or you can say that organ system, organs or organ system interact. By interacting, what is it, they can maintain, or you can say that interact and complement. Complement ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಗೆ, ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಗನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ಗೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಆರ್ಗನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ಅವರ್ ಬಾಡಿ ಗ್ಲೂಕೋಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಸಿಂಥಸೈಸ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ಲಿವರ್ and that will be circulated by blood vessels. So like that, such things are present in our body. Many such the processes are present. So organ system interact and complement the function of one another. This is very very important. ಒಂದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಂಟಿಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತವೆ. ಆ ರೀತಿ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಫೈನಲಿ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸೇ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಇಂಟ್ರ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ವಿತ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ ಬಾಡಿ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಆ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ಸು, ಹಾಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಸರೌಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ಲೈಕ್ the light, touch, heat. So that for that we're going to interact. That is the external. Let us take a nervous system, different types of nervous system. So before going to that, as we all know that, what is that? The structural and functional unit. The structural and the functional unit. Nervous system is also called as neural system. The structural and functional unit of this system, functional unit of this system is neuron, or we can also call it as nerve cells. Neuron or nerve cell. So structural and functional units are neurons. We'll take up how exactly the structure it is. So here, with the help of this, organisms can exhibit consciousness, can show consciousness. That is what they can interact with external and internal environment. Now, there are three subtypes. Generally, we'll say that, I'll tell you why we'll consider three, but mainly two types. One is autonomic nervous system, other one is peripheral nervous system. Autonomic nervous system, central nervous system, which includes the brain and spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system, which includes mainly the components, or you can say structural components, cranial and spinal nerves, through which they are attached, through which they are in contact with all those body muscles and organs. Right. So we can discuss about this, the different the parts of the brain and spinal cord later. Right. So here, PNS. So PNS, which includes the cranial nerves, there are 12 pairs, and these are spinal nerves, 31 pairs. This question we can expect. Right. So next, in peripheral nervous system, we can see two types of fibers, two types of nerve fibers. See, nerve fibers classified based on function. Based on ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್. ಏನು ನರ್ವ್ ಫೈಬರ್ಗೂ ನ್ಯೂರಾನ್ಗೂ ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ, ನರ್ವ್ ಫೈಬರ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಜನರಲಿ ವಿಲ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ದಟ್ ದಿ ಆಕ್ಸೋನಲ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್, ರೈಟ್, ಆಕ್ಸೋನಲ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್, ಎಕ್ಸಾನ್, ರೈಟ್. ಬಟ್ ನ್ಯೂರಾನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ಸ್ ಅಫರೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಎಫರೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸಸ್ ಅಲಾಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ ಆಕ್ಸಾನ್. ನರ್ವ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಅಂದಾಗ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಕಂಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಆಕ್ಸಾನ್ ರೆಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ದಟ್ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ ದಿ ಟೂ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ನರ್ವ್ ಫೈಬರ್ಸ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್. ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಟೂ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ನರ್ವ್ ಫೈಬರ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಒಂದು ಅಫರೆಂಟ್ ನರ್ವ್ ಫೈಬರ್, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು afferent nerve fibers, afferent and efferent nerve fibers. So afferent nerve fibers, right, mainly which relay signal. So just assume that this is a central nervous system. From the sensory organ ಇಂದ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಹಾಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲ sensory receptors, right, so which will be present both internally and externally. So they will going to input, that is called as sensory signal ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. Through sensory neuron, short form use ಮಾಡೋಣ so that we can complete the concept, right. So sensory neuron inputs a signal. This is very important. What is the role of sensory neuron? They input sensory signal. Where? To the central nervous system. Central nervous system, which includes the brain and spinal cord, they are the processing unit. Or you can say that central processing unit, information processing unit. They are going to interpret. ನಾವು ಕೊಡೋ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ನು ಇಂಟರ್ಪ್ರಿಟೇಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ that will be going to send, after interpretation, it will going to send a motor signal, or you can say that motor impulse ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ through motor neuron. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆನ್ಸರಿ ಆರ್ಗನ್ ಇಂದ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ನರ್ವಸ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ಗೆ ಸಿಗ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ರಿಲೇ ಇನ್ ಟು ದಿ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ನರ್ವಸ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್. ಸಿಗ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ರಿಲೇ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ನರ್ವಸ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ದಿ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಾರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಾರ್ಸ್ ಮೇನ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ಸ್ muscles, maybe in case of voluntary skeletal muscle, in case of involuntary cardiac muscles and smooth muscles. ಕಾರ್ಡಿಯಾಕ್ ಮಸಲ್ಗೆ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, ಸ್ಮೂತ್ ಮಸಲ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, ಆರ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸೇ ದಟ್ ಸ್ಕೆಲಿಟಲ್ ಮಸಲ್ಗೆ ಹೋದರೆ ವಾಲಂಟ್ರಿ ಮೂಮೆಂಟ್ಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸ್ಕೆಲಿಟಲ್ ಮಸಲ್ಗೆ ಸಿಗ್ನಲ್ ಹೋದರೆ ವಾಲಂಟ್ರಿ ಮೂಮೆಂಟ್ಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಕಾರ್ಡಿಯಾಕ್ ಮಸಲ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸ್ಮೂತ್ ಮಸಲ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಹೋದರೆ ಇನ್ವಾಲಂಟ್ರಿ ಮೂಮೆಂಟ್ಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ದಟ್ ಇನ್ಪುಟ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್. ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸೇ ದಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್, ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಟರಿ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್. ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಏನು ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ, ರೈಟ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, ಇಫ್ ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಆಸ್ಕ್ ರೈಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ರೈಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್, ಯು ವೋಂಟ್ ರೈಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಲೆಫ್ಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್, ರೈಟ್. ಅದು ಎಷ್ಟು ಇಂಟರ್ಪ್ರಿಟೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ರೈಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಅಂದರೆ ವೇರ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದಿ either you can raise what is it, the left hand or right hand. ರೈಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ ನೀವು ಲೆಫ್ಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಆದರೂ ರೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ರೈಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ರೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಹಾಗೆ ರೈಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ರೈಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಅಂದರೆ ರೈಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡೇ ರೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಂಟರ್ಪ್ರಿಟೇಷನ್. So this is the thing you have to keep it in mind. PNS, which includes based on ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್. ಈಗ ನರ್ವ್ ಫೈಬರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿದೆ, ನ್ಯೂರಾನ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ನ್ಯೂರಾನ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫೈಡ್ ಇಂಟು, ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಸೆಗ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇದು. ನ್ಯೂರಾನ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಆಫ್ ತ್ರೀ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ದೋಸ್? ಜನರಲಿ unipolar, polar and multipolar neuron. First one, unipolar. ಏನದು? See, cyton, cell body is a common thing, and axon, and then nerve ending. So if this is the case, that is a unipolar. Axon, only one axon. Always it is single. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇದನ್ನು ಯೂನಿಪೋಲಾರ್. ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಸರ್? ಜನರಲಿ ಸೀನ್ ಇನ್ ಎಂಬ್ರಿಯೋನಿಕ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್. ಎಂಬ್ರಿಯೋನಿಕ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಇದು. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಹಾಗೆ ಬೈಪೋಲಾರ್, ರೈಟ್. ನ್ಯೂರಾನ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಆಮೇಲೆ ನೋಡೋಣ, ಬಟ್ ಹೇಗಿದೆ? ಸೊ ಸೈಟಾನ್ ಇಯರ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಬಾಡಿ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಮನ್ with which one dendrite. One dendrite, see here only one pole because of the axon, hence it is unipolar. See here it is that the two polars, means one which is what is that the because of presence of dendrite, and cyton is common. Cyton is a cell body. Cyton, which is also called as what? Cell body. ಅದನ್ನು ಸೋಮ ಅಂತಲೂ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೈಟಾನ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಬಾಡಿ, ಸೋಮ. ಇದು ಆಕ್ಸಾನ್. ಸೊ ಆಕ್ಸಾನ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಸಿಂಗಲ್, ರೈಟ್. ಸೊ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಹೇಳಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಕ್ಸಾನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಡೆಂಡ್ರೈಟ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಕ್ಸಾನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಡೆಂಡ್ರೈಟ್. ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ axon and dendrites. So only one dendrite, what is that? See, you can see here one dendrite, one axon. That is why it is called as bipolar, seen in retina of eyes. And third one, multipolar. It is a common example. That is where we'll draw neat label diagram. First year ಬರ್ದಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇಯರ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆದರೆ. ಈಗ ನ್ಯೂರಲ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಕೋಆರ್ಡಿನೇಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಓದ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ದಿ right, the structure of the neuron. So what exactly this is? Structure three parts ಇದೆ. ಒಂದು ಸೈಟಾನ್, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಆಕ್ಸಾನ್, and then here you can say axon terminal, nerve ending ಅಂತಲೂ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. axon terminalನ nerve ending ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ nerve ending ಏನಿದೆ? ಜನರಲಿ ಸೈಟಾನಲ್ಲಿ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಲಾರ್ಜ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯಸ್, and then along with that all those what is that the organelles will be there. Mitochondria, Golgi apparatus, endoplasmic reticulum, and what is that the nucleolus. So nucleus with nucleolus, and there are the granules. These are the granules called as Nissls granules. Nissls granules. Sir, these are modified ಅಥವಾ fragments of rough endoplasmic reticulum. Fragments of rough endoplasmic reticulum. They are modified. These will be present in dendrites, right? In this tube also they will be present, but they are absent in axon. Axon with axonal plasma. Axon with axonal plasma. Axon plasma. So plasma of what is it? The cyton is called as neuroplasm, right? Same like that here in the cytoplasm of the neuron. Cytoplasm of the neuron, all those organelles are present along with that specialized granules called as Nissls granules. These are the fragments of rough endoplasmic reticulum. And along with that, we can see that in both, see, Nissl granules are absent in that. Nissl granules are absent in what is that? Axon and nerve ending. Here also they are absent, but there will be neurofilaments and neurotubules. ಈಗ ಮೈಕ್ರೋಫಿಲಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಮೈಕ್ರೋಟ್ಯೂಬ್ಯೂಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಹೇಗೆ what is the structure and shape maintain ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತವೆ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೈಕ್ರೋಫಿಲಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ವಿ, ಹಾಗೆ ಮೈಕ್ರೋಟ್ಯೂಬ್ಯೂಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ವಿ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಟು ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಶೇಪ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅದರ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್, ರೈಟ್, ಸೆಲ್ ಡಿವಿಷನ್ಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತವೆ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇನಿಷಿಯಲಿ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದಿ ಎಂಬ್ರಿಯೋನಿಕ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಡಿವಿಷನ್. After birth, no division at all, no division of the nerve cell. So neurofilaments and neurotubules helps to maintain shape and structure of the nerve cell. This is very important. And next, so structure lodre, this is covered by, what is that? This is neurolemma, plasma membrane of the, we will take only some two, right? Plasma membrane of the nerve fiber is called as neurolemma, and here you can see that Schwann cell. So Schwann cell which helps in the production of, what is that? Myelin sheath. So this is neurolemma, and this in between the zone which is there, that is called as myelinated sheath, right? So idanna navu myelinated sheath athwa myelin sheath, better to say myelin sheath, right? So this is secreted by the Schwann cells. So neurolemma, and this is complete, what is it, the axoplasm, and this branched, what is it, the ends of the axon are called as telodendria, and the ends with a knob-like structure called as synaptic knob-like structure called synaptic knob. Ee knob alli we can see secretory cells, is it, secretory cells and mitochondria, which helps in mainly, what is it, the secretion of very important neurotransmitters, chemicals which helps in neural signal. So this is what you have to keep it in mind. And here one question we can get, from where cyton, what is it, from where, what is it, arises this zone, right? Where arises axon, this is called as, what is it, axon hillock, very sensitive region. Okay, so these are dendrites. So in this you have to keep it in mind that one is a cyton, other one is axon terminal with, so if you consider this is the knob-like structure, right, they are with the vesicles. So these vesicles will be with neurotransmitters. Once they receive that stimulus, they are going to bind with presynaptic membrane. They are going to release, what is that, neurotransmitter into the cleft, that is synaptic cleft, fluid filled, what is it, the space, and that complete junction between those, what is it, the pre and post synaptic membrane of the neuron, which will be called it as synapse. Is synapse andre junction, ಹಾಗೆ synaptic cleft andre a space which is filled with fluid. ಅದನ್ನ generally we'll say, what is that, synaptic cleft ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, synaptic cleft. ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನು ಫರ್ದರ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. Now we can take the unipolar and bipolar, and this is what the name we can say, multipolar. What is that multipolar? That is many dendrites, more than two dendrites. What is that? More than two, what is that, dendrites and one axon. What is the common thing in different types of neuron? Axon is always single, and cyton it is also single, but dendrite, the number of dendrites varies. It may be absent, or it may be, one, or it will be two or more. So that is what you have to keep in mind. So these will going to receive a signal, receive a sensory inputs, and also receives a motor impulse and communicate and transmit that to effector. Hence these, the dendrites are called as afferent processes. What is that? Afferent processes, right? And nerve ending, telodendria with the axon terminal, which has the synaptic knob. The telodendria, which the convey through which it exit nerve signal move to next neuron, means nerve ending, from nerve ending to next neuron, mainly to the dendrite of the another neuron. Dendrite of another neuron. So that is where we can say that is through nerve ending, that is called as efferent process. Efferent process under signal receive ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. Efferent process under signal, what is that? It will convey to the next, right? It moves out of the one neuron. So next, into the neuron, into the cell body, out of the cell body, efferent processes. So ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ನೋಡೋದಕ್ಕೂ ಮೊದಲೇ, ಇಫ್ ದಟ್ ನರ್ವ್ ಫೈಬರ್ myelin sheath ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಇಫ್ myelin sheath is present, that is myelinated neuron. If no myelin sheath, non-myelinated neuron. ಈ ಎರಡು myelin sheath ಮಧ್ಯೆ there is a junction. You can see this junction, which is called as this one. A gap between two myelin sheath is called as node of Ranvier. Node of Ranvier. So that is to keep it in mind. In case of myelinated neuron, the signal jumps from one node of Ranvier to next node of Ranvier, right? So this is, we have to keep it in mind. What exactly here I mentioned, if myelin sheath is present, that is myelinated neuron. If it is absent, that is non-myelinated. Sir, where exactly it is present? Myelinated present in the cranial and spinal nerves. Expected question, spinal nerves, these are belongs to what? Peripheral nervous system, right? And non-myelinated, that is, you can say that the central nervous system, mainly in the autonomic nervous system, which and somatic nervous system. Sir, that in which ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಫೈಬರ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, ಬಟ್ ಇನ್ ಪೆರಿಪೆರಲ್ ನರ್ವಸ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್, right? So we're going to say that the system which is divided into, right, which includes two other systems, somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system andre, it is always, keep it in mind, involuntary. Already muscle connect ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, smooth, mainly smooth muscles and cardiac muscle. And somatic nervous system, skeletal muscles. So it is always voluntary. So this is through the fibers. So with this we can take some questions related to this. So when a particular neuron which receives, they generally, you can say, stimulus, when it receives, right, ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಪೊಲಾರಿಟಿ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್ ಪೊಟೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಪೋಲರೈಸ್ಡ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್. ಯಾವಾಗ ಸ್ಟಿಮ್ಯುಲಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ದಟ್ ಗೆಟ್ಸ್ ರಿವರ್ಸ್ಡ್, right? So that will become, I'll take different color. So here when stimulus will be there, negative outside, positive inside, because of change in sodium and potassium ion concentration. In normal condition, outside sodium will be very high and less potassium ion concentration. Inside, in the exoplasma, high K plus ion, less H plus ion. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅದನ್ನು ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಇದು ಪೊಲಾರಿಟಿ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವಾಗ ಸ್ಟಿಮ್ಯುಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಈ ನರ್ವ್ ಫೈಬರ್, ದಟ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಓಪನಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೋರ್ sodium channel, permeability increases, so sodium influx will be there. ಈ axonal surface ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ membrane, so that is covered by plasma membrane of the axon, covered by different types of channels. So we can take different, like this, the surface, that we can see these things. So these are these different channels, voltage gated channels ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. voltage gated channels ಇವು ಓಪನ್ ಆಗ್ತವೆ ಸ್ಟಿಮ್ಯುಲೇಟ್ ಆದಾಗ. ಅದರಲ್ಲೂ ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಚಾನಲ್ಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗ್ತವೆ. ಸೊ ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ರೈಟ್, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಪೊಟ್ಯಾಷಿಯಮ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಮೂವ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಲಿಟಲ್. ಸೊ ಪರ್ಮಿಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಟು ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸಸ್, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಮೋರ್ ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಇನ್ಸೈಡ್ ಪೊಲಾರಿಟಿ ಚೇಂಜಸ್. ಇದನ್ನು ಡಿಪೋಲರೈಸ್ಡ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ವೇರ್ this due to this action potential generates. Action potential generates. What is that action potential? Electrical potential, or you can say electric potential of, what is that? Electric potential of the depolarized membrane. Depolarized or excited axonal membrane or nerve fiber, anything we can say, axonal membrane or nerve fiber. That electric potential of the depolarized or excited axonal membrane is called as action potential. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡೋಣ, polarized neuron is the one that is, generally we know that if it has to, what is it, the conduct, right? Just now I mentioned, that is, there should action potential generate. So action potential generates so that the polarity will going to get reversed. What is it? Always it will be outside positive, inside negative in the resting membrane. So this is called as resting membrane potential. So resting membrane potential, which will be always minus 70 millivolt, and that when it receives the stimulus, that will be excited minus 70 millivolt to up to 55 millivolt, it gets excited, so that all these changes takes place, and that will be reversed. If assume this is the A position and B position where stimulus is received, A position going to change polarity and here will be negative. So this will be attracted by this and positive, right, and this will going to get reversed. So outside negative, this positive, and this will going to gain back its that original polarity. So here we can say that this, which will be, right, so A position will gain back its polarity, that is what? Repolarized. So repolarization mainly due to sodium and potassium pump. ಇದನ್ನು ನೋಡೋಣ ಆಮೇಲೆ. ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನು ಪೋಲರೈಸ್ಡ್ ಇದೆ, ಮತ್ತು ಇದು ದಿಸ್ ಪೊಸಿಷನ್, ಬಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಚೇಂಜ್. ಸೊ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್. ಒನ್ಸ್ ಅಗೈನ್ ದಿಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಅಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟೆಡ್. ಸೊ ಬಿ ಪೊಸಿಷನಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ದಿಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್, what is that, positive, and inside negative. So this gets reversed and this will move to the next position. And this becomes outside negative, this is positive. So positionally original ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ positive outside, negative inside, and that becomes negative outside. That is movement of negative proteins. So why axonal membrane negative ಇದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ negative proteins ಇದ್ದಾವೆ, right? So that is why along with that more potassium ion, and there will be negative proteins. So polarized neuron ಅಂದರೆ ಎಕ್ಸೈಟೆಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಷನ್ ಪೊಟೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್. ಅಟ್ ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಪೋಲರೈಸ್ಡ್, ಸಾರಿ, polarized is one that having that action potential. So we can say that better to, that is conducting stimulus ಅಂದರೆ action potential ಇದೆ ಅಂತ. So polarized neuron ಅಂದರೆ, so keep it in mind, the poles can be decide this is positive and this is negative. Always it will be outside positive and negative at resting, the membrane condition. We can see that, right? So where action potential will be there, right? Even in the that is what the action, the potential is. So potential, having action potential of minus 70 millivolt, so that is polarized. This is in case of action potential depolarized gelbirna. Resting potential na polarized gelbirna. So answer is at resting potential polarized neuron. A polarized neuron is the one that at resting potential. If it is reverse, that is a depolarized excited membrane. Next, vesicles that contain neurotransmitters are located in, this is we discussed that synaptic knob. What is that? Synaptic knob. So in this synaptic knob there will be many vesicles. These are called as synaptic vesicles. So in these vesicles we can see that neurotransmitters, right? Neurotransmitters. In case of muscle contraction ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ ನಾವು acetylcholine, so same like that there will be many, the GABA, and along with that dopamine. So like that there are many neurotransmitters, so which helps to show excitatory or inhibitory functions. Next, so myelin sheath is produced by Schwann cells, right? The nasal granules are fragmented rough endoplasmic reticulum. Synaptic knob is a characteristic feature of, so where exactly we can see that generally, so whenever we are going to say that the axon, nerve ending, so that is nerve fiber, axon, which will going to divide into it branches. These branches are called as telodendria, and the end of these ends with knob-like structure, that is called as, that is in the axon. We can see a synaptic knob. Synaptic knob. Next, so at the muscular surface, the nerve ending ಏನಾದರೂ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ muscular surface ಮೇಲೆ, that is we know that sarcolemma, ಈ ಜಂಕ್ಷನ್ನ NMJ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, neuromuscular junction, right? Next, neurons are excitable cells because their membranes are, generally membranes already poles decide ಆಗಿದೆ. There are poles because of that sodium and potassium ion concentration. So because of that polarized state, they can, excitable. So what is the characteristic feature of the nerve cell andre, that is nervous system, they are going to receive, right? Receiving the information, along with that they are going to respond. So receive, respond, and the process. So this is the important function of the neuron. So neuron always which will going to receive, respond, and along with that we can say that the process it stimuli. So it may receive or it may respond to a particular the stimulus, and along with that, so it helps to maintain the coordination. So this is the thing you have to keep it in mind in case of. So next, mainly to maintain that integration. Next question. So polarized state because of the depolarized state ಅಂದರೆ excitable. Pole reverse ಆಗಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ, ಎಕ್ಸೈಟೆಡ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಇದೇನಾಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇನ್ಸೈಡ್ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್. ಇದನ್ನು ಡಿಪೋಲರೈಸ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ರೀಪೋಲರೈಸ್ಡ್, ಇದು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಪೋಲರೈಸ್ ರಿವರ್ಸ್, ಪೊಲಾರಿಟಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರಿವರ್ಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ದಿಸ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಬೈ ದ ಟೈಮ್ ವೇರ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಎ ಪೊಸಿಷನ್ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್, the polarity is changed, that it gets back its original polarity. So ಇದನ್ನು repolarized ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. That is how the stimulus, or you can say that will move. First it will receive by the afferent, and then it will going to transmit the stimuli. So this is very important. So before going to research, what it should do andre, it should detect. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ನರ್ವಸ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಡಿಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ರಿಸೀವ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ರೆಸ್ಪಾಂಡ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ it detects means, and it receive. After that, first thing, next thing is transmit, and then it will going to give what is the response. So always you keep in mind Dr. T. Detect, receive, transmits, right? Next, myelin sheath covers mainly, so it covers the nerve fiber. Nerve fiber, we can also say that axonal fiber. Next, nasal granules are absent in. So this, in this case, we can say generally we know that these are the fragments where the cells, or I can say span cells, are what is it, they own produce any of the the granules, sorry, myelin sheet, if it is absent, non-myelinated. And same like that, if no the fragments in the axon, no the fragments of rough endoplasmic reticulum, no fragments iralla, so that we can say that nasal granules are absent. So in axon, there will be dendrons and dendrites, they are present, right? Cyton present, dendrons, cyton. So this is what cell body nalli ide, hage dendrons allu kuda ide. So this is how the, like this, it will be actually highly processed branches, completely the branched finger-like projections will be there. So here also, along with that cyton, here also we can see nasal granules. So in axon it is absent. Next, in the resting state, the axon membrane is with generally what are the things which will be there. So resting state alli enagirutte namage generally nerve membrane polarity can be the seen positive outside, negative inside. So polarized agirutte. One, we can say that it is polarized. Hage with more polarized adag enagirutte outside, at rest alli iddaga outside more high sodium ions are high, less potassium. Already ಹೇಳಿದೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ಸೈಡ್ ಆಕ್ಸೋಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಮಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನು ECF ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಸೆಲ್ಯುಲಾರ್ ಫ್ಲೂಯಿಡ್. ಏನದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಸೆಲ್ಯುಲಾರ್ ಫ್ಲೂಯಿಡ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ECF. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದು ಇನ್ಸೈಡ್ ಹೈ ಪೊಟ್ಯಾಷಿಯಮ್ ಅಯಾನ್, ಲೆಸ್ ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಅಯಾನ್. ಸೊ ಇದು ಪೋಲರೈಸ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ with more sodium charges outside than inside, and this is unequal distribution of ions due to, ಯಾಕೆ ಇದು unequal distribution ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ mainly, that is positively, what is it, they polarize positively sodium, and that is what sodium potassium pump. So why? Because there will be a movement inside, more sodium ion movement will be there, right? So permeability, resting membrane, whenever it is there in the resting membrane, ಇದನ್ನು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ, ಮೋರ್ ಪೊಟ್ಯಾಷಿಯಮ್ ಪರ್ಮಿಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗಲ್ಲಿ. ಬಟ್ ಇದನ್ನು more potassium inside, less sodium. As it takes less sodium, but it pumps with the help of 1 ATP, it pumps 3 sodium ion to the ECF and into the axonal, right? If this is an axon, right, it pumps 2 potassium ion. So that is how sodium ion will be very high, and inside the potassium will be very high, but outside the potassium less. Idನ್ನು maintain ಮಾಡೋದು sodium potassium pump, right? So this is, you have to keep it in mind. ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ಲಿ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ sodium ion, and they selectively put the permeability of the membrane, which forms almost impermeable barrier to, ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, impermeable barrier to sodium ion, right? So impermeable barrier to, what is that, polarized sodium ion, right? So this, so polarized positively, and then sodium ion, right? So positively, so what is it, sodium, with the help of sodium potassium, 3 outside sodium and 2 potassium inside. So here you can say that action of, right, sodium pump here. Okay, ಇಲ್ಲಿ barrier to the positively charged ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಕೋಣ. So sodium is polarized with more sodium, polarized sodium, right, and it is, you have to keep it in mind that positively charged, right, impermeable to positively charged, right, selectively permeable membrane which forms almost impermeable barrier. Okay na, resting membrane alli Na plus na allow ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, right. Next ಹಾಗೆ action of the, what is it, the sodium potassium pumps, what is it, 3 sodium out, 2 potassium in. So answer for this is third one, right. Next, which of the following increase when the action potential initiate ತಕ್ಷಣ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, permeability to the sodium will be increased, all those sodium channels will go into open. So permeability, that is diffusion of sodium ions into the neuron, what is that, increases. That is what, when it is neuron or a nerve cell gets, what is that, stimulated. So that is stimulus ಬಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ permeability reverse ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. That is why polarity reverse ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, right. Next, characteristic of neuron, that is what, it Dr. T, detect, receive and transmit. It can detect, it can receive, it can all 1, 2 and 3. The cell in the central nervous system are functionally equivalent to Schwann cells. So these are the different types of cells. What is it? These cells, astrocytes, oligodendrites, microglial cells, are actually glial cells which supports, and they perform different function. They perform, what is it, different function. So in this we can say that these astrocytes are the different, what is it, the types that they're going to protect. ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತವೆ ಜನರಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಈ ಸೆಲ್ಸು ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಷನ್, they're going to give the protection, right. So astrocytes, they will protect the cell, and oligodendrites, as we know that Schwann cells ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, myelin sheetನ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಸೆಕ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ oligodendrite, what is that, ಈಗ ನಾವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ Schwann cells which helps in protecting axon ಅಂತಲೇ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು by producing myelin sheath. And same like that, these are the, what is it, the accessory cells is surrounding, what is it, the to the neuron which will be there. They are called as a specialized, what is it, the companion cells or glial cells ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಇದು ನ್ಯೂರಾನ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ, ಶೇಪು ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಇದರಿಂದ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಿತ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್, ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ protect. Astrocytes ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಜನರಲಿ ಮೇನ್ಲಿ, that protects the neuron, right. So astrocytes provides by providing nutritional supplement to the neuron. Microglial cells, they're going to protect, or you can say that they're going to protect by providing nutrition. ಇದು ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಷನ್ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಮೈಕ್ರೋಗ್ಲಿಯಾ ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, that which will going to, what is it, the what you can say, microglial cells, ಈಗ ನಾವು ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ರೋಫೇಜಸ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, what is it, phagocyte, right. It shows phagocytosis, right. Phagocytic or scavenger cell ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಈಗ ನಾವು ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಎಲಿಮಿನೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಹಾಗೆ oligodendrite, ಈಗ ಹೇಗೆ Schwann cells ಇನ್ಸುಲೇಟರ್ಗೆ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೋ ಹಾಗೆ oligocytes ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆಸ್ insulator. So Schwann cell and, what is it, the oligodendrites perform same function. So that is what cell equivalent to ಅಂತ functionally. Schwann cellಗೆ ಈಕ್ವಲೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿರೋ, what is it, the supportive cell ಯಾವುದು, ಇವನ್ನ ನಾವು supportive cells ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. Astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, microglia. So next, select the correct arrangement of the neural organ according to evolution. We know that generally ಹೇಗೆ evolution ಆಗಿದೆ, invertebrates, right. ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಮೊದಲು ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸೇ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಇನ್ವರ್ಟಿಬ್ರೇಟ್ಸಿಂದ ಬಂದರೆ ಪೋರಿಫೆರಾ, ಸಿಲಿಂಟ್ರೇಟ್ಸ್, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಆಲ್ ದೋಸ್, ರೈಟ್, ಸಿಲಿಂಟ್ರೇಟ್ಸ್. ಅದಾದಮೇಲೆ ಹೊಡೆಸತಿ ಫ್ಲ್ಯಾಟ್ ವರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ರೌಂಡ್ ವರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಹೊಡೆಸತಿ ಫ್ಲ್ಯಾಟ್ ವರ್ಮ್ಸ್, ರೌಂಡ್ ವರ್ಮ್ಸ್, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸೇ ದಟ್ ದಿ mollusks, right, and then arthropoda, annelida, roundworms, annelida, arthropoda, and then mollusks, and then echinodermata, echinodermata, and then hemichordata. After that, vertebrates. Vertebrates will now with pharum anta ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. That is fishes or pisces, amphibians, reptiles, aves, mammals. So ಇದರ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ನೋಡೋಣ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಜನರಲ್ ಆಗಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಹೈಡ್ರಾ ಸಿಲಿಂಡ್ರೇಟ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಮ್ಯಾನ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟ್ ಹೈಡ್ರಾ ಮ್ಯಾನ್, ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟ್ ಹೈಡ್ರಾಗೂ ಮೊದಲೇ ಬರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಹೈಡ್ರಾ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸ್ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ಎವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸೇ ಹೈಡ್ರಾ, insect, and then man. So next question you can take, which of the following statement is incorrect? So nasal granules present in cell body as well as in dendrite, so that is correct alva, but it is absent where? It is absent in axon, right? So that statement is correct. And next, distal end of the axon terminates into a bulb like structure called synaptic nerve, that is also correct. The axon transmits the nerve impulses away from the cell body to dendron, that is also correct. Bipolar neuron with one axon, one dendrite found in retina of the eye. So cell body as well as distal end of the axon terminates bulb like structure, right? So distal end which will going to end with the structure, so that is also correct. Axon transmit nerve impulse away from the cell body into its into what is that? Another dendrite transfer or transmit signal or impulse to another, what is it, neuron, right? That is what. So dendrites of another neuron, not to the same, sorry. So this is wrong statement. Not cell body to its dendrite, not to another, what is it, neuron dendrite of another neuron ge transmit ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. So this is you have to keep it in mind. So meninges, generally this is related to the protective covering, we'll discuss this later, but here it covers both brain and spinal cord. So both brain and spinal cord is a protective covering. So outer dura mater, right, and arachnoid, middle arachnoid, and inner pia mater. So like this we can say, what is it, the covering are there, these are the meninges which protects the both brain and spinal cord, both brain and spinal cord. Inside the skull, brain is covered by, so we can say outside ಹೋಗೋಣ. ಈಗ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ಬಂದರೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು, ಡುರಾ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್. ಅದಾದಮೇಲೆ ದಿ ಅರಾಕ್ನಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್, ಅದಾದಮೇಲೆ ಪಯಾ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಪಯಾ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಟೆಡ್ ವಿತ್ what is it, this one. So inside the skull, brain is covered by all these alva cranial meninges anta helbodu. So cranial meninges, so it is exactly in contact with the brain anta kelidre, which meninges anta helidre, pia matter. So that is what you have to keep in mind. To the brain, what is it, the cells which is in contact, right, that is pia matter. Next, pseudo unipolar neuron. What is it, pseudo unipolar neuron? There will be, what is it, the cyton, right, with no dendrites. Cyton, sorry, this is one axon, but that axon extends and divides into two. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಸೂಡೋ ಯೂನಿಪೋಲಾರ್, ಫಾಲ್ಸ್, what is it, ಯೂನಿಪೋಲಾರ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಜನರಲಿ ದಿಸ್ ಸೂಡೋ ಯೂನಿಪೋಲಾರ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ಸ್ in dorsal root of the, what is it, the nerve and dorsal root of the spinal cord. Present not in ventral root, it is present in dorsal root of spinal cord only. Keep it in mind. Axon, there will be cyton from where the axon extends, but it divides into two. Okay, so that is what pseudo unipolar. Illide adu andre dorsal. And sometimes there is one more, non polar. Pole decide ಮಾಡೋದೇ ಕಷ್ಟ. Non polar neuron. So there will be like this with many dendrites, no axon. Generally invertebrates ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ ಸಿಲಿಂಡರೇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾನ್ ಪೋಲಾರ್. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಷನಲ್ಲಿ ನರ್ವ್ ಇಂಪಲ್ಸ್ನ ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಹಾಗೆ ರಿಸೀವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಸೀನ್ ಇನ್ ನಾನ್ ಪೋಲಾರ್ ಇನ್ ದಟ್ ಸಿಲಿಂಡರೇಟ್ಸ್. ಸೊ last question we can take, that is the resting neuron, the axon membrane is. So we know that generally when it is at rest, right, there will be a permeability. More potassium permeability, only one sodium ion permeability, and there will be a sodium pump activation. So this is what. So impermeable to both, no, it is permeable to both. Comparatively more permeable to sodium ion, no, it is more permeable to potassium ion, nearly impermeable to sodium. Comparatively more permeable to potassium and nearly impermeable. So that is the answer. So we'll continue this chapter in the next part. So up to here I think it's clear. Thank you.